Hello, and welcome to a special holiday short episode of the REconomy Podcast. If you find this type of real estate economic discussion valuable, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to help us grow this podcast. I'm Odeta Kushi, Deputy Chief Economist at First American, and here with me is Mark Fleming, Chief Economist at First American. Hi, Mark. Today we're doing something a little different. It's our holiday special, and instead of talking data releases or mortgage rate dynamics, we're diving into holiday movies, but with a twist. We're pulling out the hidden housing connections in some of our favorite classics.
Ooh, I like it. We're so excited about this that we even got dressed up. I mean, Odeta's got her beautiful red jacket on. I don't have a red or green shirt, but I do have a red tie. We are in the Christmas spirit.
That's right.
And even when the rest of the world is watching movies for fun, we're the people in the back whispering, forget the Christmas decorations. I wonder why they chose that house for the movie.
Exactly. We can't help ourselves. We're a really fun bunch. So let's start with what may be the most quintessential holiday film of all time. And I know it's one of your holiday housing favorites, Mark. It's A Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life indeed. This movie is practically a real estate seminar wrapped up in nostalgia. George Bailey spends the entire film fighting to expand home ownership in Bedford Falls. He's trying to give working families a chance to buy modest, quality homes, what we'd today call expanding the housing ladder.
Right. And the conflict really is about housing. Mr. Potter wants to keep people renting indefinitely, while George sees that homeownership can build community stability and personal dignity. It's the affordability conversation of the 1940s.
Agreed. And honestly, if this movie were made today, George Bailey would be testifying before Congress about zoning reform and mortgage modernization. Clarence the Angel would probably say, every time a bell rings, a first-time buyer removes a contingency.
Exactly. And before we move on to the next film, let's actually acknowledge the REconomy takeaway from this classic, that housing is central to the American story, economically, socially, emotionally. That's what It's a Wonderful Life shows better than almost any film. Now, to jump from the 1940s all the way to the early 1990s with Home Alone, which I think deserves a place in the Holiday Housing Hall of Fame, solely for the McAllister house.
Yeah, I mean, that home is a classic. Suburban Chicago, beautiful architecture, 6 bedrooms, the kind of staircase you could sled down if you're... Wait a second. Kevin did slide down that staircase. Maybe not entirely intentionally, though.
That's right. It's also a great example of the aspirational suburban housing of the late 20th century. Lots of space, big yard, quiet street, prime lose a child in your own home territory.
What I always wonder is, what does that home cost today? I mean, because adjusted for inflation and local price growth, we're talking about serious money. The Wet Bandits clearly knew the famous economic principle called Sutton's Law. Are you familiar with this one, Odeta? Sutton's Law?
I am indeed.
When asked, why do you rob banks? Willie Sutton responded, because that's where the money is.
And very true in this case. And I think the movie really captures that moment in American housing taste, these bigger homes, bigger yards, and the belief that more space equals more comfort. Today, preferences are more varied, but the McAllister home still represents a certain nostalgic version, I think, of the American dream.
Indeed, and it sets the tone for the entire movie. But we're not done.
We're not done, because speaking of homes that set the tone, I want to move on to one of my personal favorites, The Holiday. This movie is practically a case study in the modern sharing economy. It treats housing like an actual movie character. In this particular movie, if you haven't seen it, which you should go see it, 2 women swap homes. One lives in a charming English cottage straight out of a storybook, and the other in a sleek, spacious Los Angeles home that screams lifestyle branding. It really shows how people use housing not just as shelter, but as experience.
Exactly. And it highlights how your home reflects your identity. Iris goes to California to escape heartbreak. Amanda goes to the countryside of England to find peace. No spoilers here, but housing becomes a catalyst for reinvention.
See, you have seen the movie. Seem
I
to know
have
pretty
seen
well.
the movie. I've seen the movie.
And this idea of housing as both a place and an emotional setting is something we still see today. We say all the time that people don't just choose homes based on prices, they choose homes based on the way that they want to live. It's a great reminder that the housing market isn't just about data points, it's really about people and the lives they build inside those walls.
And speaking of walls, and back more up my movie alley, this one in this case, thin walls in this case, let's talk about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Ah, yes, the ultimate suburban homeowner holiday movie.
Exactly. The Griswold house is another example of classic American suburbia. And the whole movie is essentially a series of housing maintenance mishaps, ladder accidents, electrical problems, roof issues, and one squirrel with a personal vendetta. A classic. And of course, as a housing economist, I think about the distinction between chattel loans, which Cousin Eddie would have if he had a loan on that RV in the driveway, versus the non chattel loan that I'm sure the Griswolds have on that gorgeous house.
Oh, geez, there's the housing wonk.
Exactly.
That's where your real estate economist mind goes.
Hmm.
Now, as a relatively new homeowner myself, to me, it's basically a reminder that being a homeowner means budgeting for the unexpected. Clark Griswold is every homeowner who has ever said, how hard could it be before realizing they just voided a warranty?
And the whole holiday lighting display, all 25,000 bulbs, a timeless example of personal expression clashing with the neighborhood norms. Although I think today maybe HOA guidelines might intervene. But in the 1980s, there weren't that many HOAs. Apparently, it was a free for all.
Every time I watch that movie, I think in the 80s, this totally would have overloaded the home's electrical system.
That's so very true. Holiday lights back then certainly weren't of the LED energy efficient kind. They ran hotter than a Wham single in December, right?
Oh,
Lest we let our 80s music reference streak slip, Odetta? No?
last Christmas indeed.
Now that is a Christmas classic.
All right, before you start singing the song, what
Yes.
ties all these movies together is that housing isn't just a backdrop, it's really the emotional infrastructure of the story.
In It's a Wonderful Life, the home represents dignity and community. In Home Alone, the house is the anchor of family identity. And in The Holiday, housing becomes a vehicle for reinvention. And finally, in Christmas Vacation, the home is where traditions, however seemingly chaotic, play out.
Right, people connect to holiday movies because they're ultimately about belonging, and nothing signals belonging quite like home.
It's fitting for this time of year, even when the plots get wild, booby traps, house swaps, rogue squirrels, the idea of home remains central.
That's right. So, as you visit your holiday favorites this season, maybe pay just a little extra attention to the homes behind the stories because they're telling a story too about who we are, how we live, and how our housing shapes our lives.
And from our house in the middle of the street, our house, to yours, happy holidays and a wonderful new year.
You really couldn't resist
I
singing, could
couldn't, I
you?
couldn't resist.
All right. Well, from all of us here at the REconomy Podcast, happy holidays and thank you for joining us on this special Christmas episode of the REconomy Podcast. If you have an economics related question or an 80s music reference, apparently, that you'd like us to feature in the future, you can email us at economics@firstam.com. And as always, if you can't wait for the next episode, you can subscribe to our Econ Center at firstam.com/economics or connect with us on LinkedIn. Until next time.